Dear ladies and gentlemen, пані та панове, we are back with you with anniversary episode number 30 of our series of conversations and interviews with intellectuals in Ukraine and abroad for those out there who are keen to learn more, think deeper, and hear from the original sources. І ми знову з вами сьогодні із 30-м ювілейним випуском нашої серії розмов та інтерв'ю з інтелектуалами в Україні та за кордоном, і з тими, хто хоче дізнатися більше, думати глибше та чути із перших джерел. This is a project of PEN Ukraine, whose team is a perfect example of courage and dedication to the freedom of expression in those difficult times. Це проєкт PEN Україна, вся команда якого є чудовим прикладом відваги і відданості свободи слова у ці непрості часи. The project is co-hosted by PEN International, which has continued to provide a platform for freedom of expression for those currently under the highest risk. The project is implemented with the support of the US Embassy in Ukraine, and our traditional partners are PEN America, the Ukrainian Institute, the Ukrainian Institute London, Ukraine World, Local History, Harvard Ukrainian Research Institute, the Harman Institute at Columbia University. And we will broadcast today's event to all partners' Facebook page. Співорганізатором проєкту є Міжнародний ПЕН, який продовжує надавати підтримку для свободи вираження поглядів тим, хто перебуває в групі найвищого ризику. Нагадую, що проєкт втілюється за підтримки Посольства США в Україні, і нашими традиційними партнерами є PEN Америка, Український інститут Лондона, Україна Світ, Локальна історія, Український науково-дослідний інститут Гарвардського університету та інститут Гаррівана при Колумбійському університеті. Ми транслюємо сьогоднішню подію на всі партнерські сторінки у Facebook. Захід відбуватиметься англійською мовою. My name is Olga Mukha and I will introduce our today's guest. So today we are delighted to host Agnieszka Holland, a legend of the European film industry. Pani Agnieszka is a Polish film and television director and screenwriter, best known for her political contribution to Polish cinema, but not only Polish. She began her career as an assistant to directors Krzysztof Zanussi and Andrzej Wajda, and emigrated to France shortly before 1981. Nominated for the Oscar for Angry Harvest, then later for Europe, and the Holocaust drama In Darkness. I bet most of you know the best known of her films Europe, Europa, for which she received an Academy Award of Best Adapted Screenplay nomination. But for younger Netflix-based audience, I would remind that she also directed several episodes of many notable TV series, including The Wire, Jag, Cold Case, Rem, and House of Cards too. She was elected chairwoman of the board of the European Film Academy in 2014 and was elected as its president in 2021. And I want to additionally thank you for your welcomes on the online charity screening, starting on Filmmaker for Ukraine, which had been run in July. That was very touching and very important message for all of us to hear. And Pani Agnieszka will talk today with Iryna Tsilyk, Ukrainian filmmaker and writer. She works as a director in the film industry on fiction and documentary, but also she's the author of several books, poetry, prose, children books, and a lot of her poems and short stories has been translated into English, German, French, Polish, a lot of different languages. Tsilyk was also an active participant in Kyiv Euromaidan. And during the Russian war in eastern Ukraine, she frequently participated in various festivals and literary readings in the front line of Donbass. And that probably it started for her much earlier than for the whole world around. So also she directed 2 documentaries for the film Almanac, The Invisible Battalion about Ukrainian women at war in 2017, and a full-length documentary, The Earth is Blue as an Orange. Incredible title, I should say, about civilians living in the red zone on Donbass. And congratulations on Rock, Paper, Grenade and the initial approval of your red zone by Netflix. Let's hope that we definitely need more of this cinema of moral disquiet on that level you both representing here. So I'm anticipating very warm, full of inspiration and the cinematographic approach conversation about how we can embrace what's going on right now. Thank you so much. And dear ladies, the floor is yours. Pani Agnieszka.
Hello everybody. Thank you all for your introduction. And I have to say that I met Ira in the documentary jury during the Cannes Film Festival, last Cannes Film Festival. We've been together for 10 days probably, and it was quite absurd because she came directly from Kiev in war with her son. Her husband was in the army in this time, and we've been like walking on the red carpets every day, drinking champagne and listening to quite indecent comments when the people out of the Palais de Festival tried to make the demonstration in supporting Ukrainians. So it was very pleasant and it was very beautiful, and we met fantastic people there. But in the same time, when I was watching you, Ira, I had the impression that it has before you some kind of the matrix, that you cannot really fully enjoy it because your head and your heart is the other place, and that you feel place Cannes Festival is as on the Titanic or something. And then you came back to Kiev, and I'm following you mostly on the social medias, where you are quite active, fortunately. So I know a bit, but I would like to know more. How it was for you, the beginning of the war, this Cannes interruption, and coming back, and where you are today.
Hi, everyone. And thank you, Olga. And I'm really glad to see you, dear Agnieszka, because, you know, I miss you. And I need to tell you that you and actually our other colleagues saved me in Cannes, because, yes, you are right. I felt very surreal, very weird, because that was the first time when I left Ukraine since the full-scale invasion has started. And I immediately dived into this, I don't know, world of diamonds and careless people and all these chic red carpets. And that was so weird, so strange for us. We just came from Kiev, and I saw that we are not traumatized, but we were. And I had some very strange moments during the festival. For example, I had panic attack when it was some kind of an action for Top Gun film, and they used I don't know this word.
Top Gun 5 or something, yeah.
Yeah, and it was so, I mean, it was so scary and so unexpected when I saw and heard the sound of these 8 planes that, yeah, probably I looked not really normal, but in fact, I'm not normal. And, you know, when we are talking about this war and how it has changed us, myself and my friends and my family, everyone I know in Ukraine, on the one hand, we are already in this condition for 8 years and a half. And, you know, we had some time to get used to it. And this war has become some kind of a routine. And of course, I understand that it has changed us on different levels, including very subtle ones, especially when I observe children around me and my own son. I understand that this small, I don't know, this new generation of Ukrainians, they lived in the war-torn country for so many years, and they are already different. For example, my son, you know, he's trying to hide himself with a mask of skeptical attitude to all these events and news, but at the same time I know that he's trying to protect himself because everything is too frustrating and too painful, and his father is in the army for the second time during this years of war. So we have changed, and I've changed a lot. And, you know, I'm trying to understand what had happened to me personally, because during the first 8 years of war, I was very active and I took part in all possible, I don't know, activities connected with the theme of war, because I took part in literary readings and documentary shootings, and I was actually drawn as a magnet to Donetsk and Lugansk regions. And on the one hand, it probably seems that I was hunting for some, I don't know, hot themes or some special plots or characters, but no, this war was so strong phenomenon that has changed everything, and it was really impossible to live my normal life in peaceful Kiev and avoid knowing that some areas of Ukraine are under this war. So I actually used any chances to go there, to meet people, to listen to their stories and to tell the stories to other people. So I was shooting some documentaries. For example, I've shot 2 short docs about women who defend Ukraine. It were 2 films for the project Invisible Battalion, and I made films about the famous Ukrainian paramedic Tyra and stormtrooper Andriana with the nickname Kid. And by the way, Tyra, she was taken captive this year, this spring, by Russians, but thanks God, she's already liberated. And also, you know, I shot this, The Earth is Blue as an Orange. That was my attempt to understand what does it mean to be civilian in the war zone. But, you know, what I understood about myself, I had such a huge empathy to my characters, to this mother, Hannah, and her 4 children, because they lived in the war zone and they tried to live fully despite all the circumstances. And I was observing this mother who was pressed by, I don't know, Sisyphus stone of responsibility for her kids. But when the full-scale invasion of Russia has started, and when the war came to my city, to my Kiev, and when I got a chance to put on the shoes of my character, I suddenly found myself speechless and powerless. And it actually changed a lot. I still feel very confused, very unbalanced. And what I realized, that for us artists, filmmakers who try to observe other people and to tell their stories, it's important to have some kind of a distance between us and our characters or the stories. But when we are in the epicenter of the events, it's really impossible to be above the situation. And I still think, what should I do? What can I do now in these circumstances? And I still try to come back to myself. 6 months already have passed, but you know, I don't want to shoot any films. I don't want to write any books. I'm just looking around, and I'm trying to I don't know, to somehow deal with this new reality. So sorry, probably my answer seems as a, I don't know, I'm talking about everything at the same time, but I'm so glad to see you. And you know, it's weird. On the one hand, I want to share my personal sorrows with you as a friend, and at the same time, I still should remember that this is a public talk and other people listen to our dialogue.
Well, you know, it's very strange to see you in those circumstances, because you are in your apartment, I imagine. I see the pictures behind you on the wall. I see the greenery on the window. I see your cat sitting quiet or lying on the, you know, on the window as well. What is his name? Cat's name?
Her name is Panna Cotta.
Panna Cotta, okay.
Right, like Italian dessert.
So, you know, it doesn't look, it looks so peaceful and so normal that, you know, that I try to imagine how your days look like. I know that Kiev right now is quiet. It means the war is not so present as it was in first 2 months. That the front of the theater of war moved to the east and to the south. And that you are not reminded every single minute, you know, that the war is around. So how your days looks like?
Yeah, it sounds weird, but Kiev looks completely peaceful now. Of course, it's not, because we still have this air raid sirens, and we still have a chance of possible missile attacks. For example, you know, half an hour ago, my son, he was coming back from school to our home, and the air raid siren was started. So he was going by tram, and the tram was stopped, and he was waiting for the end. And that is also stupid, because, you know, people are waiting, but they are not hiding at the same time. But it seems some kind of a weird routine for many cities like Kiev, Lviv, and other more or less peaceful cities. And at the same time, we still have this completely different situation in Kharkiv, Mykolaiv, and all these other cities in the east and the south, which are under missile attacks almost every day. So how my days look like? I wake up, and then I write a message to my husband, who is in the army. And, you know, I miss him so much this time that I actually found out that I can't live fully while he's in the army. And maybe it's too personal and too intimate to talk about this in this public talk, but I know so many women like me who are, you know, who put their lives on standby, who are waiting for their men, and also I know men who are waiting for their women, because in fact, this time so many people I know personally joined the army, who took weapons in their arms. So, you know, this half a year have changed a lot. It's completely different situation, because during the first 8 years of war, only a small bubble of people was really involved into all this situation. And sometimes we felt very alone and very weird, because it seemed that the rest of Ukraine just lives normal life, and they sometimes forget that the war is going on. And now I know so many people, so many artists, filmmakers, writers, composers, etc., who defend Ukraine with weapons in their arms, and other people, they became volunteers or paramedics, or they work and donate for the needs of army. So it seems like everyone around me is involved into this war already. And it's weird, I don't know. But at the same time, it's our reality, and we try to do our best, because it seems that we need to do at least something, and we need to fight on different fields, not only the field of real battles, but also on the field of information and cultural, I don't know, battles. And yeah, and I lost. And I want to tell you so many things about my everyday life.
I think that we outside of Ukraine, especially in Poland, but I spent last 5 months in France. We are feeling a bit like the most of Ukrainians have been feeling during the Crimea, after Crimea, you know, annexion. It means the war in Donbass but it's like kind of far away, and you can make the abstraction and have absolutely normal life. And after a while, you are used to that. And after a while, we are a bit irritated by the people who are too actively wanting to speak about it or do something about it. So, you know, the word, I cannot tell that the word forgot about Ukrainian war. And yesterday it was the speech of the head of the European Union Commission, and she was symbolically dressed to Ukrainian colors and invited Olena Zelenska to this, and was talking a lot about Ukraine, but at the same time, it became some kind of routine, exactly, some kind of ceremonial necessity, but the powerlessness in front of this war and powerlessness in front of the future, except of those who are helping military. If somebody is helping military, is something very concrete. I have some friends in Poland and in France a bit, but especially in Poland, who are organizing the supplies and not only humanitarian help, but a lot of some kind of military help. And I know that the NATO or some militaries are feeling quite excited that they can send so much of those incredibly innovative and modern tools. And myself, together with my friends, have been organizing the collect to buy the car for Ukraine, which if somebody told me, like, I don't know, a year ago, that I will be spending my time in convincing people that they have put the money to buy this deadly weapon, and especially produced by Turkish factory and invented to bomb the Kurds, I will never believe that. So we are all doing the things with the hope that it has some meaning, that it has some sense, and we have to simplify our emotions and our convictions. I think that we have to change the words to some kind of the black and white in order to be a bit efficient. And that is something which is so much against the reason I was doing art, for example, or cinema. If somebody asked me why I'm making movies and what is the message of my movies, I would say that my message of my movies is that the world is complicated, and that everything is ambiguous somehow, you know, and that the people's characters are full of gray zones, that the good and evil are fighting, but not in this Marvel cinema way, but fighting in very invisible and very, you know, and very complex way. One day the good is winning, and another day on the same field the bad things are winning. And now we cannot have this kind of the attitude. It means we can, but I think it's inadequate in the situation of this war. So it is difficult to accept for many people in the West, I think, and for the creative people in the West. And they don't understand that inter arma silent muse. It means when the weapons are active, the art doesn't have its place, unfortunately. And if you try to be efficient, you change your message, even your creative message, some kind of the propaganda. It's very difficult to avoid it. I was listening to the interviews of Serhiy Zhadan, the great Ukrainian writer and poet, who came to Poland with the cycles of meetings and interviews, and he said the same thing you are saying. It means he doesn't have the need or the motivation to write the poetry right now. He's just acting. But you are in the different situation. I think that the situation you described, this Penelope situation, is very important to capture. That somehow, we know Odyssea from the Odyssey point of view. We don't know Odyssea from the Penelope's point of view. And now when women are so active and when we are feeling that we are taking the real responsibility for the world, that we have to, if not the world will sink, to describe and to express this woman experience of the war is extremely important. And I know that you cannot do it right now, but I think when it will end, and I hope that it will end, and it will end sooner than we are afraid of, and that it will be happy ending. You have to make the film about it, and I'm sure you will. So, and don't worry now that don't feel guilty that that you are not like expressing your creative needs, that you don't have creative needs right now. It is totally fine. You don't just be open. I think that is the extremely important part of your life, and you are alive, so you have to do everything to feel and and to open up, not to escape from the, I don't want to say brutality of this experience, but the depth of this experience.
You are absolutely right, and I'm listening to you and thinking that probably a lot depends on the tools that we use, and I mean tools that we use in arts, because some kind of arts have some magic power to stop this here and now energy to fix it. And for example, poetry, as to my opinion, is one of that most magic tools. And that's a pity that Zhadan can't write anything now, but I know that some poets can do that. And as to me, they do some fantastic things when they try to grab the moment, to fix it, to stop it, and to somehow reflect, on all that small moments that change us today, because we change so fast. And of course, it's important to somehow fix that process of metamorphosis. But for example, the writing of, novels or fiction films, they really need distance, because it's difficult to be objective while you see the situation in a close-up. You need to see it more distantly in a wide shot. And it's really impossible when you are inside of this, in the epicenter of all these events. And during all these years, I was actually trying to find some answers on the question, does art have some sense, have some power in the times of war? And of course, I know it does, it matters. And I saw how it actually works. And even when I was shooting this film, The Earth is Blue as an Orange, that was a slogan of our film. Does art has some power in times of war? And I saw how did it work to my characters, because, you know, they were shooting these amateur films about themselves during the war times. But in fact, that was their way to work with their traumas, because they had to repeat some traumatic experiences from the past. And they had a chance to look at these experiences with some other optics. So when I was the observer, it looked very, I don't know, I really believed that it matters. But suddenly everything changed when I became that mother who is watching at her own child who was shaken because of the fear. That was the second day of this full-scale Russia's invasion into Kiev. And this night was really, I don't know, scary, because we were listening to sounds of explosions just behind our windows. And I saw my son, he was shaken with some animal fear. And I suddenly found myself, I don't know, I already told you what I felt that day, but I'm still trying to find the answer. What can I do now? And I'm also afraid that some tools, you know, can destroy that very thin lines between, I mean, I'm looking around and I see how some people try to make some art on blood, you know, today. And for example, I've got so many proposals from some foreign production houses. They asked me and proposed me some ideas and scripts about this war already, and the events which are happening right now. For example, about Bucha and Azovstal and all these really painful things that happen today. And as to me, it's too early, and it's really dangerous to go this way, because it's like a minefield, and it's so easy to make wrong steps, and while people are still being tortured and raped and kept captive in this concentration camps, it's probably not the right time to shoot fiction films, especially in the same locations, for example, in Bucha or Gostomel or Irpin, who were liberated from Russians. But at the same time, I ask myself, maybe as an artist, I should just grab my camera and fix all this reality around, because it's also extremely important to fix it. And sometimes filmmakers, we become the participants and witnesses of some unique moments, and probably we should somehow react. We should take this footage, and probably later we will have a chance to look back and to reflect. And so I don't know, I have more
Well, I don't think that there are the rules, you know, that you have to do that or not to have it. That is very subjective.
Yeah.
I'm not able to. During the siege of Sarajevo, for example, Adam Ilkanovich and the younger filmmakers created some kind of the collective, and they've been doing the documentaries and shorts and also some fiction shorts as it happened. And it went outside, and I think it made some impact, and it was for them very important, because suddenly, you know, being there, it was not just waiting that some you know, grenade or some bomb will fall on them. They've been stronger than the reality in this moment. It was the kind of the therapy, but also the kind of the documentation for the posterity and for the people right now in different places who didn't care about some war in ex-Yugoslavia, and suddenly when they watched the films, they had the impression that it can be personal for them as well. So I think that the documentaries are necessary. I think that the documentary cinema document the things and the atrocities, unfortunately, as well. It is very important, and that it also can serve in some point to judge the perpetrators. So I think that the cinema has its place in the war. I'm not sure about the fiction. I think that, yeah, you're right. For the fiction, you need some kind of the distance. Distance of the time, or distance of the place, or distance of you are capable of. And when I analyze the things which have been written during the Second World War in the concentration camps or ghettos, or in occupied Poland, for example, it was a lot of writers and poets who went during those 5 years of the war through the terrible things, or being the witnesses, or being the the victims. And practically the fiction novel was absent. It was some quite powerful short stories during these 5 years. By the end of the war, actually, not from very beginning. It was some historical fiction books about, I don't know, ancient Greeks or Rome or something like that, which was the mix of the escapism and in the same time attempt to give some continuity, some cultural continuity to this absurd, cruel things which is going on, and poetry and the diaries. And what really I think reminded us how it was, which was some kind of the experience which is possible to capture my own experience. It was mostly in the diaries and poetry, very rarely in the fiction. Fiction is heavy, fiction is somehow, fiction is always some kind of the manipulation. I think that is the problem, and you feel that you don't have the right to manipulate this kind of the sufferance, that it has to be very naked, it has to be very raw, it has to be very direct. But I still think that is necessary. I think that I'm afraid of something different. I'm afraid that no one is interested to watch the things like that. I think that because of your experience in Ukrainian experience during this 8 years since Maidan, Ukrainian cinema became one of the most powerful in Europe, and only one probably which speaks about the extremely important things and experiences, and about the human experiences in a radical way. And I think it's great. It means, it's something for something. In some point, the Israeli or Palestinian cinema had this kind of the strength, and still has, because it's what's going on in this area. It's the constant kind of the conflict and interior conflict as well. But I'm not sure if we have really an audience. I'm not sure if we have the money to do it in the right way. I know that Jasmila Żbanić with Quo Vadis Aida, which I think is one of the most important films about the modern war. She was fighting for 8 years to have the money to make this film, and needed 10 co-production countries, to put the money together. And I see myself how difficult it is to find the interest in something which is political or controversial or non-pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the problem with the cinema, that the cinema became very escaping and very very somehow, even not commercial, because, you know, most of European films are not commercial. You can quite easily find the money for the movie, which is about some, I don't know, first love or some unusual love, or about the relation with your father or something like that. It's quite easy, you know. But to make the film about the real experience of the war, I think they are afraid.
On the other hand, you know, I'm afraid that we become some hostages of this term, because it seems that me and my colleagues, we need to make these new films about the war. And I was observing this process during that 8 years, how first the world was waiting for our films about the war. Then they were tired of these topics, and I understand them completely why. Then they were waiting for films about the war without the war. I mean, for example, like my The Earth is Blue is in Orange, it was quite successful, but probably it's because it's not about the war itself. It's still about people and some universal things like love, art, friendship, and family. So I also wanted, you know, to change my focus to something else. And I was trying to shoot films about something else. And at the moment, I found myself again on this road when I can't actually do something else, because it seems like all this reality around me is stronger than anything else. But, you know, I feel that I probably found some way. And when you were talking about poetry and diary, I started to come back to myself, and I developed the new project at the moment. First of all, I want to try completely new genre for me. I want to try animated documentary, because I feel that that is one of the most one of the strongest and sincerest ways to talk about some personal things, especially things that already had happened to me or my family or people I know, but I don't want to shoot any reconstructions. I want to find some other way how to talk about these experiences. And I know that it's bloody expensive, but I hope that we will find the budget, and I really want to make a film about myself and about my intimate experience during these war times, because I am, as a woman, I really want to talk about this feeling of insecurity, which is so familiar for many women I know, because there are so many kind of fears that we face with now. And also I see some kind of crossroads and some connections with women from the past, my grandmothers and their mothers, because it seems like the history walks in circles again and again. And, you know, all these traumas from the past, I mean, the traumas of our grandmothers, are still here, and we still need to face them. I mean, all these challenges again. So that is so weird, because when I was listening to stories of my grandmother about her childhood and her grandmother who was exiled to Solovki, I mean, to Stalin's camps, and when I was listening how the Second World War came to Kiev and how the war has started, it seemed that it's something from the past. It will never repeat again. It's impossible to happen with us, modern people of 21st century. But we are exactly on the same road. And I really want to look at my grandmother's eyes and, you know, using the instruments of cinema. And I want to talk to herself, to myself, and to many women I know. So
well, you know, several things which came to my mind when you've been talking. First, I would encourage you to do the animation personal film, because I know some wonderful examples, and I think that sometimes it's much better to express your experience in this way than to make exactly the reconstruction. And it doesn't need to be so expensive. It depends, you know, on the way you are animating. It can be very simple, like, you know, like, I don't know, Persepolis was extremely simple and very efficient. So it doesn't need to be Pixar animation and, you know, and expensive computer work. That is one thing that I think it's really great. Another thing is, when I was talking about the war and the depth of the experience, I was not thinking that everybody has suddenly made the movies about the war, even if it's what is now the most important. I'm thinking about this generation of the filmmakers who've been the grown-up people already, or teenager, or, you know, very young people during the Second World War, world-wise, and that it was the greatest and the most creative and the most independent and the most personal and the most innovative generation of filmmakers. It was the best time of the cinema. When you look at the names like Bresson, Godard, Bergman, Fellini, Antonioni, Pasolini, Wajda, Kurosawa, Tarkovsky, etc. Some of them been doing the films about the war and about this like particular experience, but even if they've been not touching the subject at all, it was the fact that they faced as grown up, or at least conscient people, the depth of this terrible experience of the humanity, and they've been looking to the worst face of the humanity, and watched and understood what the humanity is capable of. It gave them those who survived, they gave them this feeling of the gravity and the urge to speak with the language and about the things which are not just narcissistic, you know, some kind of the narcissistic, I don't want to say bullshit, but some kind of, you know, something which is like somehow easy. They've been never, this generation was not looking for the like easy way to execute their art. So I think that, you know, this experience of the war can be something which gives creatively incredible strength. And I just hope, you know, that the people will be not too afraid to face some gravity and to share some grave experience with the artists.
yeah, you are right. I was listening to you, and you know, this famous quote came to my mind about, is the poetry possible after Auschwitz? Of course it's possible, but it's some kind of other poetry. So I mean, all the films, all the poems and books that we will write and shoot after this war, of course it will be quite different. And you know, I'm already waiting for these reflections, because this is the unique situation that so many artists now are involved into this. I mean, they are at war. They had to take weapons in their arms. So many journalists and writers and intellectuals, and it's terrible that many of them die, but I hope that many of them will survive too, and we will probably have a huge wave of new Ukrainian art after this war. I'm really waiting for it.
Me too. Olga, I see you on the screen.
Yeah, I'm
So
back.
maybe you
I'm back with a question. I have a question from one of our viewers to you, Agnieszka, about your movie, Mr. Jones. And they ask you, like, do you see any difference or something similar in those situations, and how it's different about representing the situation on the war and the situation in Ukraine nowadays?
Well, when Iryna was telling that she thought that never the experience of her grandmother can happen again, and that we are in 21st century, I never had this experience and this feeling. I felt practically from my youth that the war is only sleeping, you know, that the Holocaust is only sleeping, that this terrible phase of the humanity didn't disappear, that we've been somehow vaccinated by the Holocaust and Second World War, but this vaccination and this vaccine is evaporating, and that slowly we are capable of the same craziness and fury. And it's why I was doing some films about the Holocaust, and it's why I was doing Mr. Jones, which was extremely relevant for me. When I read the script of Andrea Chalupa, it was not only because of showing to the world the experience of the Holodomor. It is also to speak about the corruption of the media, the fake news, the alternative reality, which is killing the democracy and some kind of the courage, and which is making the crime like Holodomor possible and not punishable. And when we've been doing it, I was feeling that this coming back again. It means that it's possible again, and on the global scale. And not only because it was after 2014 and Putin shown what he's planning, that it was pretty clear to me, but also because globally this kind of the danger which happened in 30s of 20th century, it means the explosion of the hate and fascist need to divide the world and to find the scapegoat and kill the scapegoat is coming back. So yeah, I think that I did it for this reason, not only to pay the tribute to the victims of Holodomor. It was also one of the reasons, but to show that the Stalin's crimes was forgotten and forgiven. It means they can happen again.
That's very true. A few weeks ago, we had a presentation of a book on Mr. Jones, The Man Who Knew Too Much, here in London in our Ukrainian community. And when we had the conversation, they said it's horribly timed well. And this is the thing that it just explodes the whole context, that nothing new in it. But probably one of the most shocks for the whole world community, and especially for Europe, was that this is possible in 21st century, the same what Iryna just mentioned. And I have a very personal question to you, Iryna, and people are asking how you coping, what gives you strength?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
You know, I was listening to Agnieszka when she told that she always knew that the war is just sleeping. I was more naive because I thought that it will never repeat, but I don't believe anymore in the formula never again, because the humanity probably failed, and I already know that the humanity bites its own tail as an Ouroboros, and we have the same terrible, I don't know, trials, and the whole array of this world's culture and all the tools of modernity just powerlessly surrender in the face of moments when a person tries to destroy the other person in the most terrible ways. But, you know, at the same time, as much as people scare me, they also, another people, inspire me, because I see so many wonderful people around me, and I see the power of people who can, I don't know, who can change some cruel scenarios and who can break the mountains. And these people surround me. I live with them at the same time, and I see that all of us, every person, we can do something. We can do our best, and some people can, I don't know, defend country on the battlefield. Some other people can use the weapons of culture, and some people, I don't know, my grandmother, for example, she was going to the volunteer center to weave camouflage nets for the front till the very last moment, until she passed away. So I believe in that strong power of people and of their small, you know, acts. And storytelling is also one of the ways to be alive. So I still try to believe that it matters. Storytelling matters, films matters. And I'm really thankful for this dialogue with Agnieszka. I can listen to her for hours. That's a pity that the time is almost
That's
over.
so true. Yeah, that's always the most challenging part of it, to say, yeah, we are running out of time. Thank you so much for this important conversation on how to keep motivation and inspiration to write as well, how to capture this reality, how should we capture those unique moments, and should we shoot them or keep a distance first? Those are complicated questions with only subjective answers, probably, because how to catch things that can be stronger than reality is. Why documentary, including atrocities, are important to judge the perpetrators in the future. How the world changed back to black and white, even for those who are actively promoting gray zones in human characters, right? It's difficult to accept, as Agnieszka said, especially for the creative people in the West. But if you would ask yourself, what can I do today? The way how Iryna is asking herself each morning. Today, I would say, watch Ukrainian cinema. It needs to be seen. This is exactly what Agnieszka Holland called a win-win situation, and especially doing it in a charity platform, double win-win, right? And share the stories. Stories, those are things which really make you involved. And this is what our dialogues are about. Looking for sometimes very subjective answers, sometimes very intimate answers about your own insecurities, about those historical vicious circles. Catch those moments. This is a top time for it, for diaries and documentaries as well. Thank you for those answers, dear Agnieszka and Iryna. Those were two great filmmakers from Polish and France, and Ukrainian filmmakers. We are grateful to all our partners for their precious support. I also want to remind you that project is implemented with the support of U.S. Embassy in Ukraine, and our traditional partners are PEN America, the Ukrainian Institute London, Ukraine World, Local History, Harvard Ukrainian Research Institute, the Harman Institute at Columbia University. And gratitude, of course, to PEN Ukraine, which continues to stand at the front lines in the name of freedom and truth. PEN International is proud to be a platform that supports freedom of expression. We hope those dialogues give you enough insights and material for deep thinking. Thank you again, our great speakers. That was pure pleasure and great privilege. And the next episode will be held in 2 weeks, on Tuesday, October 4th at 6 p.m. Kyiv time, 4 p.m. London time. We'll be hosting Katerina Babkina, Ukrainian writer and poet, and Askol Melnichuk, an American writer and academic, whose publications include novels, essays, poems, and Ukrainian origin. Follow our dialogues on war, spread the word, and stand with Ukraine. This is our shared responsibility today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Iryna. Take care, and all my best to your boys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Andriy, you. Іди сюди, Агнєшці, скажи привіт.